Ladies and gentlemen, sadly, we have another one.
Diane Macedo, we are coming on the air with breaking news. Multiple people are dead after a shooting at a Dallas ICE field office this morning. I spoke with Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons just moments ago. Here's what he had to say about the situation.
It appears to be a sniper from an elevated position. Initially, 3 individuals were shot. We do have multiple fatalities. All ICE agents and officers at the location are accounted for right now. It's still an active scene. From what we know, the shooter died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Dallas Police Department and the Texas Department of Public Safety have been great help to secure the scene. So it's still active right now in the sense that we're still trying to learn more why this happened, anyone else is involved, and just really securing the area and making sure our people are safe.
The Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said in a statement that the shooter's motive is unknown. The director says it appears the suspect shot from a sniper position.
So that is the initial news. It seems neutral. But surprise, surprise, some people are like, hey man, I think it's a right-winger because he's shooting immigrants. And I'm like, they are getting arrested for something they voted for?
Enforcement, specifically the Dallas Police Department, for their quick and timely response. I can confirm at this time that the FBI is investigating this incident as an act of targeted violence. It is unfortunately just the most recent example we've seen of targeted violence, to include here in North Texas, where back on July 4th, we saw a coordinated attack carried out against an immigration detention center in Alvarado, Texas. What I can also share with you is that early evidence that we've seen from rounds that were found near the suspected shooter contain messages that are anti-ICE in nature. Again, this is just the most recent example of this type of attack. This will be a whole of government response. There will be no resource not utilized to bring all those individuals who are responsible to bring them to justice and to hold them accountable.
And for that, we got FBI Director Kash Patel posting picture about, yo, look at the bullet markings. Maybe that's why we might be having copycats. Like it's snowballing in a direction that people don't call out. While the investigation is ongoing, an initial review of the evidence shows that ideological motive behind this attack. One of the unspent shell cases recovered was engraved with the phrase anti-ICE.
Uptrend is going to be a thing. I mean, it could just be coincidental that the best vantage point just happened to be elevated positions in this case. But people emulating this kind of attack is certainly a concern. The irony with the writing, the first time we really saw that was Brenton Tarrant in the Christchurch shooting in a mosque in New Zealand, and he was a fierce, white supremacist and neo-Nazi, and wrote all over his weapon and his rounds very hateful information. So to see this coming from potentially the other side of the political spectrum is a little strange, because it is not something, if you are trying to, carry out some kind of message countering, more extreme right-wing stuff, I don't know why you would, use a tactic that a famous white supremacist who has been revered and copycatted over the years by other white supremacists, why you would do that. But it does appear that people are moving in that direction because they want people to know what they're doing and why they're doing.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the most disingenuous things that I've seen. I mean, this happened a few days ago. You are comparing it to a Christchurch shooting because he had also letters or whatever on the gun that happened in 2019, March. That is so long ago. You see that connection. But you don't see the connection with Luigi Mangione that happened in December the 4th, 2024, because he had also letters disposed but being denied. Remember? But you don't compare it to Charlie Kirk that happened 10th September. That's not even 16 days ago. No, he had take that fascist or something like that. No, you don't see the connection. You don't see the resemblance. Why? Because these might have been left-leaning people with left-leaning ideology or activism that you're mentioning on the news. But you want to relate to the connection that you see, 6 years ago in New Zealand, in a totally different country. When you have clear 2 examples right now. There comes a point I'm like, news, I know you care, but it seems you care more about your ideology.
That's happening in the United States of America. Masked men jumping out of unmarked cars, people disappearing, no due process, no oversight, zero accountability, happening in the United States of America today. People ask, well, is authoritarianism, you're being hyperbolic? Bull, we're being hyperbolic. If you're a black and brown community, it's here in this country. And so I'm deeply proud that I had the privilege of signing the nation's first bill to address the issue of masking, also to require you have simple identification, to your point. I mean, if some guy jumped out of an unmarked car in a van with a mask on, tried to grab me, I mean, by definition, you're going to push back. And so these are not just authoritarian tendencies. These are authoritarian actions by an authoritarian government. You saw what Stephen Miller said last week. This should put chills up spine. Called the Democratic Party an extremist organization, basically a terrorist organization, saying he's going after his enemies. You saw the tweet that Donald Trump sent out, Truth Social, basically telling Pam Bondi, I want these 3 people taken out. That's happening in the United States.
Let's be honest, if I believe exactly what Gavin Newsom says, which I believe he said almost a day before on a comedy show or whatever, if somebody really believed that message, that might justify certain things. And you know what's interesting? He is trying to block all the masks of ICE, but not the mask of his police.
And now what DHS is trying to say, again, they're using public intimidation because they know that they cannot come for us all. They know that they cannot come for us all. And recently what they said is that DHS is allegedly looking into arresting members of Congress who were showing up for their legal and constitutional obligation to conduct oversight. If anyone's breaking the law in this situation, it's not members of Congress, it's the Department of Homeland Security. It's people like Tom Homan and Secretary Kristi Noem. You lay a finger on someone, on Representative Bonnie Watson Coleman, on Representative, or any of the representatives that were there, you lay a finger on them, we are going to have a problem. Because the people who are breaking the law are the people who are not abiding by it. And it is enshrined in the law that members of Congress who show up to ICE and CBP facilities are required to be granted access, legally required to be granted access. And they legally cannot be inhibited from accessing these facilities to conduct their constitutional obligation to investigate and conduct oversight. So if Kristi Noem wants to break the law, that's on her. But it sure as hell is not someone like Representative Robert Menendez that needs to be arrested, okay?
You can see I keep changing clothes in this video because I keep getting more information, and this video I was preparing for yesterday to upload today, but I'm adding context. First of all, even if you're Congress, you cannot just enter. It's not safe. You need to ask for clearance. And the fact that you tell everybody, fight the system, and then be like, I want to go without clearance, it makes no sense. Like, there is no structure to get anything done. But then they want to use that information. Look, I can't enter. They're fascist. But then you're not responsible, because when you have to compare to the fascist or something to the shooter, you're going to use the right-leaning version a few years ago. It's like, and they're telling now that the right-wingers have to tone it down.
When I see ICE, I see slave patrols.
That's the SS and the Gestapo.
You can see here, ICE agent grabbed a 5-year-old girl outside of her home and held her screaming to coerce her father, who has been in the US for 22 years, to be detained. This is cruel, disgusting, and must end. Trump is stealing family support. But then you find out, no, the video shows ICE with a 5-year-old girl while agents attempt to arrest his father. Correction, an early version of the article mischaracterized the activities of ICE agent in the video. The article has been updated. And tell me, what do you think the general population is going to remember? The retraction or the first story?
Shortly thereafter, the FBI began its meticulous work at the crime scene. At the same time, we obtained and executed multiple search warrants yesterday for devices and locations associated with the sniper. FBI agents executed a search warrant at the sniper's residence yesterday and there found a collection of notes. First, I want to point out that one of these notes or papers, the sniper explicitly states, yes, it was just me. That statement appears to be correct at this point in the investigation. Notably, these loose notes included a game plan of the attack and target areas at the facility. He called the ICE employees people showing up to collect a dirty paycheck. He wrote that he intended to maximize lethality against ICE personnel and to maximize property damage at the facility. He hoped to minimize any collateral damage or injury to the detainees and any other innocent people. It seems that he did not intend to kill the detainees or harm them. It's clear from these notes that he was targeting ICE agents and ICE personnel. The tragic irony for his evil plot here is that it was a detainee who was killed and 2 other detainees that were injured when he fired into the Sally Port. He also hoped his actions would give ICE agents real terror of being gunned down, and he did this to induce constant stress in their lives. He hoped his actions would terrorize ICE employees and interfere with their work, which he called human trafficking.
So now you have the manifesto, now you heard the message, and now you see his purpose. Does his purpose align with the message of Gavin Newsom? Just let me know in the comments, because maybe he actually might have believed Gavin Newsom.
So we have an update on the mass shooting at the ICE detention facility in Dallas. The shooter was specifically targeting detainees. At this point, it has been confirmed that 2 of the detainees have been unalived and 1 of them is in critical conditions. Now, the shooter was a white male. He unalived himself apparently from a self-inflicted wound. And according to local reports, his specific target was the detainees, not ICE officers. So this does appear to be a right-wing extremist terrorist attack on defenseless people who were already being detained and most likely deported as it was. But apparently that was not good enough justice for this guy. He had to take the law into his own hands and unalive these.
I actually said that in the beginning, remember? But surprise, surprise, some people are like, hey man, I think it's a right-winger because he's shooting immigrants. I'm a pattern recognition expert because even if the facts kind of go against the message, they will just proceed with the narrative. And I think that's way more dangerous than they think.
Don't get me wrong, makosa kita bong. Put the fire na mi blonde kush hash purple skunk criollo colombici jam jam. Turloketa berdetta welcome.